let's have a quality start. Rough end to a disappointing road trip for the Mets. Christian Scott was looking dominant as he was taking on the Pirates, and he allowed just one hit on the day. But after Brandon Nimmo tied the game in the 6th with a 2-run homer, Scott was pulled with 2 out and none on at the bottom of the 6th after just 77 pitches. To the surprise of no one, the Mets bullpen imploded immediately, giving up 5 runs in the inning. The Mets lost. Carlos, what the heck were you thinking taking out Christian Scott there?
We went into the game and we knew we were not pitching more than 75 pitches. And as soon as that last at bat, he got the second out at 77. I think it was. That's what we had Orsi, before the inning started going. It's a tough spot, obviously, but this kid's too important. Obviously, we got to protect him, especially after he threw 99 pitches his last time out, going on regular rest this time for the first time in his career, and then going again his next time through on regular rest. So we went in the game and we knew it was only going to be for 75 pitches.
Did the relative ease of his innings not play into it at all, or?
No, I think it's more of 99 pitches his last time out and going on regular rest. Obviously he was in complete control of that game. He was really, really good. But again, this is one of those. It was a hard decision. But like I said, we went in there. It was only going to be 75 today.
All right, TC, you're all too familiar with this stuff, the predetermined decisions by the organization. Instead of prioritizing getting a win, taking a pitcher out who was rolling, what'd you think of Mendoza's explanation for taking Scott out?
Well, one of the things I really liked about Carlos is that he's accountable. He stood up there in front, hey, this is why we did it, and I understand it. You don't like it because he's pitching so well, and as we've talked about before, Sal, there's nights where, hey, it's working. The nights it's working, let him pitch. But, you're trying to get this guy through a season. He threw 90-some pitches the last time out, so I'm sure they wanted to back him down. I'm sure before the game started today, they said probably 75 pitches. They probably say, hey, let's cut him off at 75 today, and so they let him have one extra hitter, and they said, okay, that's enough. And I don't like it,
right,
but that is how the game is played today. And there's got to be some place along the line where we start training our pitching staff in the minor leagues so that they can get through some of these innings. You're looking at guys today, they're throwing 75 innings in the minor leagues in a season.
Yeah.
And so they come to the big leagues, and now you're in a pennant race where innings are important, and they're just not ready to give you those multiple innings. But I understand what Carlos is going through, and I'll tell you what, I've talked to him about this, on the phone, and I'll tell you that's a tough situation to be in because you want to win the game, but yet you're strapped with decisions that you made before the game.
Now, look, I know it's an organizational thing. If they could tell me that it's going to prevent guys from getting hurt, that's one thing. They cannot because pitchers still get hurt. So to me, it shows that they're not prioritizing winning baseball games, which is what fans care about. It's what players care about. I'm assuming it's what managers care about it. It's his rookie season. I know Mendoza is not going by the book, which is one of the things I love about him. But do you think a manager with more tenure would maybe have a little more say to at least push him through that final out in that 6th inning?
Well, I go back early in the year where, we talked where Carlos, I cannot remember who was pitching. It might have been Quintana, but he let him have that extra hit.
Yeah.
He was an experienced pitcher. So you have a little bit more, if you have those guys out there that have a little bit more experience where you have a little more trust in what they're going to do. And, yeah, you're right, Sal. I'll tell you something. I'm sorry. But, years ago, you trained pitchers to pitch. And you got their arms in condition where they could give you innings. And now the health is so important, and guys are still getting hurt because they're not throwing enough.
Yeah, on the one hand, I understand why the Mets did this. Like you said, they talked about it before the game. It was 75 pitches, etc. And yet, Carlos Mendoza, David Stearns, all of these Mets official types have said we're not putting an innings limit on Christian Scott this year. Baseball has become more advanced than that. You don't put innings limits. You don't say we're not going over 30 of what he did last year. Instead, you're looking at biomechanical markers. You're testing these guys regularly. So you put all that together, but then you get to a game like this and you say, well, he couldn't pitch to one more batter. Because what's the worst thing that happens with that one batter? He throws 6-7 pitches, a lengthy at bat, guy gets on base, you have to bring the reliever in anyway, and that's worst case. Maybe he gets him on one pitch, one out. So to me, it's not totally consistent with the messaging, which is that we're not limiting this guy, but this is where we're at.
Yeah, I think you guys have made good points that it would be one thing if this definitely worked, right? This idea, but it feels like science theater sometimes where we're just sort of we're imagining, like, we don't know that 75 pitches is a problem, but 77 isn't. That's nonsense. And so this idea, I mean, obviously the Mets have a little bit more behind it, I would imagine, than just this is the number. But it does feel like we are acting as if we know something we don't know. Because Tyler Glasnow got hurt. He has not thrown that many innings in his career. And Sandy Alcantara got hurt. And he throws, 200 innings every year. So it doesn't... What we do seem to know is that it's high velocity. And Christian Scott is not a 102-mile-an-hour guy. And so maybe he can hold up. Maybe we should teach him. Maybe this is when you find out what he can do.
One also thing that we seem to... This is my biggest issue with the whole thing. They're not prioritizing winning. You cannot tell me that the Mets or anybody else who takes a pitcher out early is prioritizing winning that game. What they're prioritizing, at least in their minds, is preserving the pitcher, maybe for his next start, maybe for the future. But you're not in that moment doing all that you can to win that ball game, because if you were, your best pitcher who allowed just one hit on the day would be getting through the inning. Oh, by the way, TC, their bullpen is in shambles. So let's not make it like you're in a hurry to get to that bullpen and taking Christian Scott out. What is the mindset when you know that your pen isn't going well, but you have to rely on them to get outs?
Well, that's where management comes into play. And, it's a lot of times before a game, you sit down with, I used to walk around the outfield and talk to my relief pitchers, and look, you got to tell them, hey, look, today, here's how are you going to be used today if you get in this game, and so get them prepared before the game starts. But yeah, but Sal, it goes back to the whole thing. If you're not getting deep in games, you're going to burn your bullpen. I'm sorry, I don't care how good they are. If Edwin Diaz, if he didn't have the 10 days off and they were winning games and he's out there 3 nights in a row, and then you get the day off and 3 more nights in a row, by August he's going to be shot.
Yeah, and everyone wanted to wait for Edwin Diaz to get back. And, of course, that helps, right? You get your closer back, you get your best reliever back. That does help. But it wasn't just Diaz that the Mets need. They weren't just one guy short in the bullpen. They've had multiple injuries with Brooks Raley, Drew Smith, Sean Reed-Foley's still not back and won't be back anytime soon. So they've been playing multiple pitchers short. They've been having to call up guys, inexperienced guys. They've been having to overuse guys who have done well, like Daniel Nunez and Reed Garrett. And it all screams to me, why doesn't this team jump the market and get a reliever now? And David Stearns has been asked many, many times already about the Josh Hader trade and what that did for the morale of the clubhouse. I think he could do the opposite thing right now. You jump the market, you get a reliever, somebody. It doesn't have to be the best one out there, but you get somebody, and all of a sudden the morale in that room goes sky high because they said, here, we're going to help you.
You sound like, I think it was Brandon Nimmo who today was kind of like...
I agree with him.
I think we're going to try to shore that up soon. It kind of stinks to get so close and keep giving it up in the late innings. I mean, that's one of the leaders of the team saying that. I would hope that the front office is listening, because you're right, everybody's hurt. They're kind of doing what they can. But at a certain point, they're going to need some help. Right,
but in the meantime, you actually have a starter that's throwing the ball well. It's the 6th inning. Like, I get if he's at 100 pitches... not Johan Santana no-hitter type stuff, but I get if he's, you know what I mean? Young guy, we're talking about 77 pitches. I'm asking for one more batter. By the way, I'll admit, I probably would have had a problem if they let him get through the 6th inning and didn't bring him back out for the 7th, because I would rather push a guy to try to get a win as opposed to coddle him and hope that it helps him stay healthy. There's just no science to back it up. Guys are getting hurt all the time. I'm about winning ball games. You want to make the postseason, you got to win ball games. They would have been better off, the Mets, leaving Scott in the game if they wanted to win it. Instead, they go to the bullpen, and it blows up, and they come back with a 4-4 road trip.